Welcome to this powerful journey through the Gospel of Matthew, where we witness the beginning of Jesus' public ministry, his authority over demons, diseases, and even sin itself. Watch the video until the end, because these chapters are filled with incredible moments that reveal who Jesus really is, and you definitely don't want to miss any of it.
And Jesus went out of the temple, and on the way his disciples came to him, pointing out the buildings of the temple. But he answering said to them, "See you not all these things? Truly I say to you that here there will not be one stone resting on another, which will not be pulled down." And while he was seated on the mountain of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Make clear to us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world?" And Jesus said to them in answer, "Take care that you are not tricked, for people will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and a number will be turned from the true way through them. And news will come to you of wars and talk of wars. Do not be troubled, for these things have to be, but it is still not the end. For nation will be moved against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And men will be without food, and the earth will be shaking in different places. But all these things are the first of the troubles. Then they will be cruel to you, and will put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. And numbers of people will be turned from the right way, and will give one another up, and have hate for one another. And a number of false prophets will come, causing error. And because wrongdoing will be increased, the love of most people will become cold. But he who goes through to the end will get salvation. And this good news of the kingdom will be given through all the world for a witness to all nations. And then the end will come. When then you see in the holy place the unclean thing which makes destruction, of which word was given by Daniel the prophet, let this be clear to the reader. Then let those who are in Judea go in flight to the mountains. Let not him who is on the housetop go down to take anything out of his house. And let not him who is in the field go back to get his coat. But it will be hard for women who are with child, and for those with babies at the breast, in those days. And say a prayer that your flight may not be in the winter, or on a Sabbath. Because in those days there will be great sorrow, such as there has not been from the start of the world till now, or ever will be. And if those days had not been made short, there would have been no salvation for any. But because of the saints, those days will be made short. Then if any man says to you, 'See, here is the Christ,' or 'Here,' do not put faith in him. For there will come up false Christs and false prophets, who will do great signs and wonders, so that if possible even the saints might be tricked. See, I have made it clear to you before it comes about. If then they say to you, 'See, he is in the wasteland,' go not out. 'See, he is in the inner rooms,' put no faith in it. Because as in a thunderstorm, the bright light coming from the east is seen even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever the dead body is, there will the eagles come together. But straightway, after the trouble of those days, the sun will be made dark, and the moon will not give her light, and the stars will come down from heaven, and the powers of heaven will be moved. And then the sign of the Son of Man will be seen in heaven. And then all the nations of the earth will have sorrow. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a great sound of a horn, and they will get his saints together from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now take an example from the fig tree. When her branch has become soft and puts out its leaves, you are certain that the summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you may be certain that he is near, even at the doors. Truly, I say to you, this generation will not come to an end till all these things are complete. Heaven and earth will come to an end, but my words will not come to an end. But of that day and hour no one has knowledge, not even the angels in heaven, or the Son, but the Father only. And as were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Because as in those days before the overflowing of the waters, they were feasting and taking wives and getting married, till the day when Noah went into the ark, and they had no care till the waters came and took them all away, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then 2 men will be in the field, one is taken and one let go. 2 women will be crushing grain, one is taken and one let go. Be watching, then, for you have no knowledge on what day your Lord will come. But be certain of this, that if the master of the house had had knowledge of the time when the thief was coming, he would have been watching, and would not have let his house be broken into. Be ready then, for at a time which you have no thought, of the Son of Man will come. Who is the true and wise servant whom his Lord has put over those in his house to give them their food at the right time? A blessing on that servant, who will be doing so when his Lord comes. Truly I say to you, he will put him over all he has. But if that evil servant says in his heart, My Lord is a long time in coming, and is cruel to the other servants, taking his pleasure with those who are overcome with wine, the Lord of that servant will come in a day when he is not looking for him, and in an hour of which he has no knowledge, and will have him cut in 2, and will give him a part in the fate of the false ones. There will be weeping and cries of sorrow.
If you're still watching this video and finding these insights useful, and if you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend subscribing and turning on the bell icon so you don't miss future episodes. Your support helps us continue creating inspiring scripture-based content.
Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins, the friends of the bride, who took their lights and went out with the purpose of meeting the husband. And 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. For the foolish, when they took their lights, took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lights. Now the husband was a long time in coming, and they all went to sleep. But in the middle of the night there is a cry, The husband comes, go out to him. Then all those virgins got up and made ready their lights. And the foolish said to the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lights are going out. But the wise made answer, saying, There may not be enough for us and you. It would be better for you to go to the traders and get oil for yourselves. And while they went to get oil, the master came. And those who were ready went in with him to the feast, and the door was shut. After that the other virgins came, saying, Lord, Lord, let us in. But he made answer and said, Truly I say to you, I have no knowledge of you. Keep watch then, because you are not certain of the day or of the hour. For it is as when a man, about to take a journey, got his servants together and gave them his property. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to everyone as he was able. And he went on his journey. Straightway he who had been given the 5 talents went and did trade with them, and made 5 more. In the same way he who had been given the 2 got 2 more. But he who was given the 1 went away, and put it in a hole in the earth, and kept his Lord's money in a secret place. Now after a long time the Lord of those servants comes, and makes up his account with them. And he who had the 5 talents came with his other 5 talents, saying, Lord, you gave into my care 5 talents. See, I have got 5 more. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and true servant. You have been true in a small thing. I will give you control over great things. Take your part in the joy of your Lord. And he who had the 2 talents came and said, Lord, you gave into my care 2 talents. See, I have got 2 more. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and true servant. You have been true in a small thing. I will give you control over great things. Take your part in the joy of your Lord. And he who had the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I had knowledge that you are a hard man, getting in grain where you have not put seed, and making profits for which you have done no work. And I was in fear, and went away, and put your talent in the earth. Here is what is yours. But his Lord in answer said to him, You are a bad and unready servant. If you had knowledge that I get in grain where I did not put seed, and make profits for which I have done no work, why then did you not put my money in the bank? And at my coming I would have got back what is mine with interest. Take away then his talent and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will be given, and he will have more. But from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And put out the servant who is of no profit into the outer dark. There will be weeping and cries of sorrow. But when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then will he be seated in his glory. And before him all the nations will come together. And they will be parted one from another, as the sheep are parted from the goats by the keeper. And he will put the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left. Then will the king say to those on his right, Come, you who have the blessing of my Father, into the kingdom made ready for you before the world was. For I was in need of food, and you gave it to me. I was in need of drink, and you gave it to me. I was wandering, and you took me in. I had no clothing, and you gave it to me. When I was ill or in prison, you came to me. Then will the upright make answer to him, saying, Lord, when did we see you in need of food and give it to you, or in need of drink and give it to you? And when did we see you wandering and take you in, or without clothing and give it to you? And when did we see you ill or in prison and come to you? And the king will make answer and say to them, Truly I say to you, because you did it to the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. Then will he say to those on the left, Go from me, you cursed ones, into the eternal fire which is ready for the evil one and his angels? For I was in need of food, and you gave it not to me. I was in need of drink, and you gave it not to me. I was wandering, and you took me not in, without clothing, and you gave me no clothing, ill and in prison, and you came not to me. Then will they make answer, saying, Lord, when did we see you in need of food or drink or wandering or without clothing or ill or in prison, and did not take care of you? Then will he make answer to them, saying, Truly I say to you, because you did it not to the least of these, you did it not to me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the upright into eternal life.
If you're still with us and being blessed by this teaching, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It's a small gesture that makes a big difference in helping others discover God's Word.
And when Jesus had come to the end of all these words, he said to his disciples, After 2 days is the Passover, and the Son of Man will be given up to the death of the cross. Then the chief priests and the rulers of the people came together in the house of the high priest, who was named Caiaphas. And they made designs together to take Jesus by some trick and put him to death. But they said, Not while the feast is going on, for fear of trouble among the people. Now when Jesus was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, there came to him a woman having a bottle of perfume of great price, and she put the perfume on his head when he was seated at table. But when the disciples saw it, they were angry, saying, To what purpose is this waste? For we might have got much money for this and given it to the poor. But Jesus, seeing it, said to them, Why are you troubling the woman? She has done a kind act to me. For the poor you have ever with you, but me you have not forever. For in putting this perfume on my body, she did it to make me ready for my last resting place. Truly I say to you, wherever this good news goes, out in all the world what this woman has done will be talked of in memory of her. Then one of the, who was named Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, What will you give me if I give him up to you? And the price was fixed at 30 bits of silver. And from that time he was watching for a chance to give him into their hands. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, Where are we to make ready for you to take the Passover meal? And he said to them, Go into the town to such a man, and say to him, The Master says my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus had said to them, and they made ready the Passover. Now, when evening was come, he was seated at table with the 12 disciples. And while they were taking food, he said, Truly I say to you that one of you will be false to me. And they were very sad and said to him one by one, Is it I, Lord? And he made answer and said, He who puts his hand into the plate with me, the same will be false to me. The Son of Man goes, even as the writings say of him, but a curse is on that man through whom the Son of Man is given up. It would have been well for that man if he had never come into the world. And Judas, who was false to him, made answer and said, Is it I, Master? He says to him, Yes. And when they were taking food, Jesus took bread, and after blessing it, he gave the broken bread to the disciples and said, Take it, this is my body. And he took a cup, and having given praise, he gave it to them, saying, Take of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the testament, which is given for men for the forgiveness of sins. But I say to you that from now I will not take of this fruit of the vine, till that day when I take it new with you in my Father's kingdom. And after a song of praise to God, they went out to the mountain of Olives. Then said Jesus to them, All of you will be turned away from me this night, for it is said in the writings, I will put to death the keeper of the sheep, and the sheep of the flock will be put to flight. But after I am come back from the dead, I will go before you into Galilee. But Peter made answer and said to him, Though all may be turned away from you, I will never be turned away. Jesus said to him, Truly I say to you that this night, before the hour of the cock's cry, you will say 3 times that you have no knowledge of me. Peter says to him, Even if I am put to death with you, I will not be false to you. So said all the disciples. Then comes Jesus with them to a place named Gethsemane, and says to his disciples, Be seated here, while I go over there for prayer. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and became sad and very troubled. Then says he to them, My soul is very sad, even to death. Keep watch with me here. And he went forward a little, and falling down on his face in prayer, he said, O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup go from me, but let not my pleasure but yours be done. And he comes to the disciples, and sees that they are sleeping, and says to Peter, What, were you not able to keep watch with me 1 hour? Keep watch with prayer, so that you may not be put to the test. The spirit truly is ready, but the flesh is feeble. Again, a second time he went away and said in prayer, O my Father, if this may not go from me without my taking it, let your pleasure be done. And he came again and saw them sleeping, for their eyes were tired. And he went away from them again, and a third time said the same prayer. Then he comes to the disciples, and says to them, Go on sleeping now, and take your rest. For the hour is come, and the Son of Man is given into the hands of evil men. Up, let us be going. See, he who gives me up is near. And while he was still talking, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a band armed with swords and sticks from the chief priests and those in authority over the people. Now the false one had given them a sign, saying, The one to whom I give a kiss, that is he, take him. And straightway he came to Jesus and said, Master, and gave him a kiss. And Jesus said to him, Friend, do that for which you have come. Then they came and put hands on Jesus and took him. And one of those who were with Jesus put out his hand and took out his sword and gave the servant of the high priest a blow, cutting off his ear. Then says Jesus to him, Put up your sword again into its place. For all those who take the sword will come to death by the sword. Does it not seem possible to you that if I make request to my Father, he will even now send me an army of angels? But how then would the writings come true, which say that so it has to be? In that hour, Jesus said to the people, Have you come out as against a thief with swords and sticks to take me? I was teaching every day in the temple, and you took me not. But all this has taken place so that the writings of the prophets might come true. Then all his disciples went from him in flight, and those who had made Jesus prisoner took him away to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and those in authority over the people had come together. But Peter went after him at a distance to the house of the high priest, and went in and took his seat with the servants to see the end. Now the chief priests and all the Sanhedrin were looking for false witness against Jesus, so that they might put him to death, and they were not able to get it, though a number of false witnesses came. But later there came two who said, "This man said, I am able to give the temple of God to destruction and to put it up again in 3 days." And the high priest got up and said to him, "Have you no answer? What is it which these say against you?" But Jesus said not a word. And the high priest said to him, "I put you on oath by the living God, that you will say to us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus says to him, "You say so, but I say to you, from now you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest, violently parting his robes, said, "He has said evil against God. What more need have we of witnesses? For now his words against God have come to your ears." 66. What is your opinion? They made answer and said, "It is right for him to be put to death." Then they put shame on him and were cruel to him, and some gave him blows, saying, "Be a prophet, O Christ, and say who gave you a blow." Now Peter was seated in the open square outside the house, and a servant girl came to him, saying, "You were with Jesus, the Galilean." But he said before them all that it was false, saying, "I have no knowledge of what you say." And when he had gone out into the doorway, another saw him, and says to those who were there, "This man was with Jesus the Nazarene." And again he said with an oath, "I have no knowledge of the man." And after a little time those who were near came and said to Peter, "Truly you are one of them, because your talk is witness against you." Then with curses and oaths he said, "I have no knowledge of the man." And straightway there came the cry of a cock. And the word of Jesus came back to Peter when he said, "Before the hour of the cock's cry, you will say 3 times that you have no knowledge of me." And he went out, weeping bitterly.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell to stay connected to more Bible teachings that will inspire your walk with God.